Hi, welcome to my attic. I'm Mrs. McGregor, and together we're going to explore this attic. See what we can find that will take us into days gone by. See what we can find that will help us to understand the past of this big country of ours. What do we call our country? That's right, the United States of America. And who discovered America? Christopher Columbus? When I found this old globe up in the attic, I got to thinking about Columbus and how he wanted to prove that the world was not flat, like a table, something you could fall off, but round like a ball. Oh my, he was brave to sail off into unknown, dangerous waters. But if he discovered America, how come it wasn't named for him? I think we should find out. And to do that, we must meet another young man who was growing up in Italy about the same time as Columbus. His name was Amerigo Vespucci. Amerigo did not really have the whole world to himself. It only seemed so up here on the lonely hilltop high above the village. Oh, if he looked down, he could see the torches blazing in the little square. He could hear the gay dance music and now and again snatches of song. But why should he look down? There were more wonderful sights to be seen in the dark Italian sky above him. Absently, he rubbed the back of his neck, which ached from looking upward. A small breeze rustled his star map that was spread out on a flat stone. His candle flickered and went out, and he was struggling to relight it with his flint and tinder when he heard his name being called. Footsteps were stumbling toward him in the darkness.
Amerigo, are you there? You must come down at once. Uncle Giovanni wants you. Why do you have to climb the hill to see the stars? You can see them from the garden, can't you?
Not so well. The trees get in the way. Up here I can see all the heavens spread out like a map. That's what I'm trying to do, to copy that map. But it's a long job. I only placed one constellation tonight, although I think I found Sagittarius too. I wish I could be sure.
How could you be sure? Sag, whatever you call him. That star can't tell you his name, can he?
Not a star, a constellation, a group of stars. They form a picture of an archer with his bow bent. If you look where I'm pointing, you'll see him. If I have it right. Does it look like a man with a bow to you?
No, it does not. All I see is a sky full of stars. Some are brighter than others. That's all. Did you hear what I told you, Amerigo? Uncle wants you. He'll be cross if you don't come, and you're missing the dancing. The whole village is out in the square. Do come along.
I'm coming. I can't do any more without a light, and my tinder is damp. Tomorrow night I'll bring a lantern.
Tomorrow night? Don't you ever get tired of watching the stars, Amerigo? They all look alike, and they always look the same. It's such a dull game to play.
It isn't a game, and it isn't dull. If you'd go to Uncle Giorgio Antonio for lessons, as I do, Bernardo, you'd find out how fascinating it is to study the stars.
Not me. I'm going into the wool business. I shall be a businessman and make a fortune. Are you never coming? I told you, Uncle Giovanni.
I know. I'm ready.
The two boys plunged down the hill. It was Uncle Giorgio who had first awakened Amerigo's interest in the stars, And as soon as Amerigo returned from his visit in the country with his Uncle Giovanni, he hurried to show his star map to his Uncle Giorgio.
I'm afraid it's full of mistakes. It's so hard to be sure about the constellations. I think the ancients must have had better eyes than I have to see all those pictures in the way the stars are grouped. Archers and fishes and goats. I'd never have recognized them if it hadn't been for the drawings in my book.
I don't suppose the pictures were any plainer to the ancients, Amerigo, but it is a convenient way of naming the star groups for study. Now, when one scholar says Sagittarius to another, they both know which constellation is meant. Well, that's what names are for. If your father says, my son, I don't know which of his 4 boys he means. But if he says Antonio or Amerigo, then there can be no mistake. So you see how useful it is for each to have a name.
I never thought of that before, but of course it's true. 2 people could hardly talk together about anything unless things had names. Oh, Uncle, how wise you are. I do wish I could hope ever to know as much as you do.
And Amerigo's wish came true. He made it come true by reading and studying very hard. He became one of the best map makers of his day. And he also became a good businessman. His business was supplying ships with the things that they would need for long voyages or trips. He met Christopher Columbus, and the 2 became very good friends. In fact, it was Amerigo who helped outfit the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria when Columbus sailed from Spain in 1492. Oh, how excited Amerigo was when his friend returned from that long voyage with the news that he had discovered islands near what he thought must be the land of India. Columbus stopped to see Amerigo. With him were suntanned seamen and several brown-skinned natives from the new lands. Columbus called them Indians because he'd found them in what he believed to be the islands of the Indies. He also brought parrots and treasures. Columbus told Amerigo that only 6 of the Indians were well enough to travel. He asked if he could leave the others with his friend. Amerigo was delighted. By signs, he showed the Indians he was their friend. But they puzzled him. These people were brown-skinned with large brown eyes. Marco Polo, who had traveled to India and China, had said the Orientals were yellow-skinned with black, almond-shaped eyes. Why were these island Indians so different from other Orientals? Amerigo hoped that he might someday go exploring and perhaps find the answer to that puzzle. Columbus made 3 trips back to the islands he had discovered. It was after the 3rd trip that the King and Queen of Spain asked Amerigo to go exploring. They wanted him to make maps of the new lands. And they still hoped that someone might find the riches, the gold, the jewels, the spices, that should be in the new lands if Columbus had found China or Japan or India as he'd hoped. Well, Amerigo did not find the riches either. What he did find was that there was much, much more new land than Columbus had even guessed. So much that it must be an entirely new, unknown part of the world, not part of India or China. As Amerigo grew older, he became sick and could no longer explore. Oh, but he did continue to teach others about the sea and the stars, and one of his best pupils was a young nephew, Giovanni. Giovanni was as eager a student as Amerigo had been when he was young and learning from his uncle. One day, Giovanni burst into his uncle's classroom.
Great news!
Amerigo looked up in surprise, shaking his head at his nephew. Oh, but nothing could stop Giovanni. He waved a map in the air.
I have a new map of the world. It is drawn by a map maker in France. It shows the New World. And see, he calls the New World's north coast America in honor of you.
America was Amerigo's name in Latin.
He says here it is fitting that this 4th part of the world, inasmuch as Amerigo discovered it, should be called America.
Amerigo took the map, which had his picture on the border. All his students crowded around in great excitement. Amerigo smiled his old smile.
This is just one man's idea. Of course, it would be an honor if part of the coast I discovered had my name. But Columbus discovered the New World across the ocean sea, not I.
You discovered that it is a new continent and not Asia. You discovered most of its coast. You rightly deserve to have it called America for you.
Soon copies of the new map were all over Europe, and people everywhere were looking at it and talking about what a wonderful place this new world must be. The day came when Amerigo was too ill to teach, and finally, in the year 1512, he died. Amerigo, in his lifetime, had mapped more than 6,000 miles of new coastline, more than anyone else in the history of the world. He had discovered new ocean currents, new stars, how to tell a ship's position at sea. And he had discovered that the islands Columbus had found were really part of a new continent between Europe and Asia. Continent is the word we use to describe a very, very big piece of land. Well, Amerigo's continent had hardly been named before more explorers found land north of Columbus's islands. The new land was still another continent. It became North America, and Amerigo's continent, South America. And so it was that Amerigo Vespucci's name became famous forever. The stories I've told you today about Amerigo came from these two books, Amerigo Vespucci by Nina Baker, and A World Explorer, Amerigo Vespucci by Faith Yingling Knoop. I'd like to show you where Amerigo went on his travels, and I think I can if you'll look at this map. Here is the land that is our country, the United States. We live in North America. Do you know in which part of the United States you live? If you live in Florida, you're not far from the islands Columbus discovered. We call them the West Indies. Now, if we start in Spain, way across the Atlantic Ocean, we can follow the path of Amerigo's first trip. He sailed across the ocean and then down along part of the coast of South America. On his way back, he visited the islands Columbus had discovered. Then he sailed for home. On Amerigo's second trip, he again sailed across the Atlantic Ocean and down the coast of South America. That time he went even farther before returning to Spain. Looking at the map, it's easy to understand why Amerigo decided there had to be a whole new continent waiting to be explored. And soon that's exactly what people from all over Europe began doing, exploring those new continents. Our exploring time for today is just about up. But I can hardly wait for you to come back to my attic when we will do more exploring. Look at all the things we have to discover here. And I will certainly see you that time. But for today, goodbye.
The preceding program was made possible by a grant from the Ohio Department of Education.